We are both sisters in law.
And let me just say that we will resolve differences without the cameras and without the microphones. Thank you.
Thank you, God bless. Thank you all.
At the recent CARICOM Heads of Government meeting, a quiet but serious political confrontation unfolded between two of the Caribbean's most powerful figures, Mottley and Kamla Persad-Bissessar. It didn't happen on a stage, and it didn't involve raised voices, but make no mistake, this was a clash, and it sent a message through the region. When people started saying the two leaders had a fight, they weren't talking about drama for show. They were talking about a real collision of power, policy, and leadership inside CARICOM. The tension surfaced after Kamla Persad-Bissessar delivered her opening address, a speech that immediately triggered speculation among diplomats and observers about where Trinidad and Tobago was positioning itself inside the bloc. Whispers began circulating that unity was being tested. Then came the cameras. In Basseterre, both leaders appeared walking side by side. Persad-Bissessar joked, calling Mottley her sister-in-law, drawing laughter and easing the moment. But the real headline came seconds later, when Mottley leaned into the microphones and said, "We will resolve differences without the cameras and without the microphones." That line wasn't friendly. It was firm. It was a warning. Mottley wasn't dismissing the disagreement. She was shutting it down publicly. In diplomatic language, that sentence translates to this: there are serious differences here, but they will not be weaponized by the media or by foreign powers watching for weakness. In CARICOM politics, public division is dangerous currency, and Mottley made it clear she was not about to let it circulate. Kamla Persad-Bissessar's body language told its own story. Her calm, joking response wasn't surrender, it was calculation. Trinidad and Tobago is not just another CARICOM state. It is an energy power, deeply entangled in global markets and exposed to geopolitical pressure, especially from the United States. Its leadership has far less room for bold regional posturing and far more to lose from international backlash. When CARICOM takes collective positions on sensitive issues like sanctions, alliances, or foreign conflicts, Trinidad has to count the cost carefully, and that caution does not always align with Mottley's aggressive, globally focused diplomacy. This is where the real clash sits. Mottley has become the face of CARICOM on the world stage, speaking with confidence and moral authority on climate justice, debt relief, and global inequality. That visibility has elevated the Caribbean's voice, but it has also shifted the internal balance of power. Some leaders are now quietly asking whether CARICOM is becoming a single-voice bloc driven by one dominant figure, or whether national red lines are being stretched in the name of regional ambition. The smiles, the laughter, and the public unity were necessary, but they were also performative. Behind them is a serious debate about leadership, sovereignty, and risk. Public disagreement at that moment would have cracked CARICOM's image and invited outside interference. So the argument didn't disappear. It went underground, where real power discussions happen. What happened between Mottley and Persad-Bissessar wasn't chaos. It was control under pressure. It was two experienced leaders signaling strength in different ways. One asserting command of the regional narrative, the other defending national space within it. And it revealed something important. CARICOM unity is not automatic. It is negotiated, managed, and sometimes strained. This wasn't the end of the story. It was a glimpse behind the curtain. And as global pressure on the Caribbean increases, moments like this will become more frequent, more tense, and far harder to hide.